All right, I'm picking up with the Unit 2 review for Math 1111 College Algebra, and I'm picking up with question number 20 on the review sheet, and the next four questions, 21 through 23, deal with linear functions and specifically writing the equation of a line. So the first one says, the instructions overall say find the slope-intercept form of the equation of the specified line. And for question 20, we're told that our slope is -5/2 and passes through -2, 6. As I mentioned earlier today, I hope when you see that phrase, write the equation of the line, that you'll think, okay, I need the slope, I need a point, and I'm going to use the point slope form of the line. So I have the slope, I have a point, my formula, and again, I would kind of put all these formulas together on one page to help yourself out. You're not scrambling when you're taking the online test, but the point slope form of the line is y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. So again, looking at what I was given the slope, which is m. It's clearly labeled. M equals -5/2. Then I have the point, and I have x1, y1. So it's a straight, flat-out substitution into the formula. Okay, so if I do that, I have y equals -5/2 times x minus a -2 is +2 plus 6. That gives me the point slope form of the line. But again, notice the instructions say to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So to get to slope-intercept form, I've got to eliminate the parentheses and combine like terms. So I'm going to distribute -5/2 times x is -5/2 x. -5/2 times +2. Again, guys, if you need to, get your calculator out. -5/2 times 2/1 is -10/2, which is ultimately -5 plus 6. And then finally, I'm going to come back and I'm going to combine like terms. -5 plus 6. Watch your signs, please. So y equals -5/2 x plus 1. And this would be the final answer in slope-intercept form. Question 21, you really have the same questions or the same instructions. Find the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line that passes through 2, -2, and -4, 7. So again, I want you to think, okay, I need the slope, a point, and I need point slope, which is y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. Well, in this particular scenario, I don't have just one point, I have 2 points, but initially it looks like I don't have the slope. But remember, we have enough information to find the slope. So the first step that I have to do in this particular problem is to find the slope. So I'm going to label these x1, y1, x2, y2. Remember your slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to use the 2 points that I was given and my slope formula, and I'm going to do the calculation. So I would have 7 minus a -2, so that's 7 plus 2 over negative 4 minus 2. So I have 9 over negative 6, and I believe that fraction will simplify. 3 goes into 9 3 times, 3 goes into 6 2 times, and it's overall negative. And we prefer to put the negative in the numerator. So my slope is negative 3/2. So I'm going to take that slope that we just found and one of the points, and it doesn't matter which one, I'm going to use the first one, and we plug into point slope. So I would have y equals negative 3/2 parentheses x minus 2 plus negative 2, which is really minus 2. That is the point slope. I then need to find slope intercept. So I'm going to distribute y equals negative 3/2 x, negative 3/2 times negative 2. Negative and a negative make a positive, and I have 3/2 times 2 over 1. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2, which ultimately gives me 3 minus 2. And then I come back and I combine like terms. So I have y equals negative 3/2 x plus 1. Positive 3 minus 2 is plus 1. And this would be your final answer in slope intercept form. Guys, with these linear equations, you're going to be running into a lot of fractions. Please, 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 please use your calculator. Question 22, same instructions. Find the equation of the line that is parallel to y equals 2x plus 4 and passes through 0, 3. Okay, so here again, when you see those statements, I want you to think, okay, I need the slope, I need a point, and then you need point slope. Okay, so we need the slope here, but not only do you need the slope, you specifically need the parallel slope. You need a point, and you need point slope, which is y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. Okay, so we have our point. Okay, they give us the point as 0, 3. So this would be my x1, y1. So I need to determine the slope, specifically the parallel slope. And what you have to remember is that parallel lines have the same slope. So if I look at the line that I'm given, y equals 2x plus 4, which is in our format, y equals mx plus b, I realize that my slope that I'm given is 2. So the slope that I need to use to create this parallel line is also going to be 2. So using a slope of 2 and the given point of 0, 3, I'm going to plug into point slope. So I have y equals 2 parentheses x minus 0 plus 3. And then I need to simplify that particular equation. Okay, so I'm going to distribute. So I have y equals 2x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 3. Finally, combining those like terms, I have y equals 2x plus 3. Minus 0 plus 3 is still plus 3. So my answer would be y equals 2x plus 3. That's the equation of the line parallel to the given one in slope intercept form. Okay, then one more. we have, write the equation of the line that is perpendicular to x minus 3y equals 8 and passes through 2, -4. So again, if you think, you need the slope, and specifically this time you need the perpendicular slope, and you need a point, and you need point slope, which is y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. So again, I start out, and they've given me the point. Okay, so I have x1, y1. We have to think about our perpendicular line. Okay, so perpendicular lines, the slopes are negative reciprocal. Okay, so let me see if I can make you a note about that. Okay, perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. But the challenge here with the equation that I'm given is it's not in that nice form y equals mx plus b. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is take this equation and solve it for y. So I'm going to subtract x from either side so that I have negative 3y equals 8 minus x. Then I need to divide everything by -3. So I have y equals -8/3 minus, and a minus is going to be a plus 1/3 x. Now, I have that written sort of backwards, but hopefully you can connect to it. This is like having y equals b plus mx. The slope is the value in front of the variable x, so it's positive 1/3. But I need the perpendicular slope. The perpendicular slope, you have to flip it. So instead of being 1/3, it becomes 3/1, and you change the sign. It's positive. I'm going to make it negative. So if I simplify that, the perpendicular slope is -3. The slope of the given line is positive 1/3. To find the negative reciprocal, flip it and change the sign. So using the slope of -3 and the point that I was given, I'm going to plug into point slope. So I have y equals -3 times x minus 2 plus -4 would be -4. And then I need to simplify that because remember, ultimately we're trying to put it into slope-intercept form. So -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -2 is +6. What's your signs? -4. And finally, I'm going to come back and I am going to combine like terms. So I have y equals -3x, +6 minus 4 is +2. So my final answer in slope-intercept form is y equals -3x plus 2. The last two questions deal with simplifying radicals that involve imaginary numbers. And it involves imaginary numbers because whenever you have a negative under the radical, that introduces an imaginary number or the imaginary unit. Remember, by definition, that that I is the square root of -1. So, and when you're dealing with radicals, there's a couple of conditions. You can have no negative under the radical. We solve that problem by using this definition of I. You have no perfect root. We're dealing primarily with squares, so you can't have a perfect square under the radical. You cannot have a fraction under the radical. And if we were dealing with fractions overall, you can have no fraction, or excuse me, not fraction, no radical in the denominator. And I wish we had time to cover more on complex numbers, but this gets you the basics that will help you get through the next course and even on into calculus. With the 2-week delay or class suspension, we really just don't have time to cover much more than this. So let's see if we can walk through these. Okay, so the first one, we have 2 times the square root of -75 added to 3 times the square root of 25. Okay, I want to talk about this part over here, 3 square root 25 first, because I hope you can simplify that pretty easily. Okay, the 3 just kind of hangs out with us. Square root 25, hopefully you realize that's 5 times 5, that's a perfect square. So we simplify that. Square root of 25 is 5. And then 3 times 5 would ultimately be 15. So I've kind of taken care of that part, and I still have the plus sign there. And so now I need to think about this other part, and it may help us to come off to the side over here for a second. Let's think about 75. 75 is 3 times 25. And really, we just decided that 25, which is 5 times 5, is a perfect square. I also notice that I have the negative. So automatically, because it's negative, this is rewritten 2i on the square root of 75. But then I need to get rid of this perfect square. So if I rewrite the square root of 75 as 25 times 3, then I have the square root of 25 times the square root of 3. But square root 25 is a 5, so that becomes 5 on the square root of 3. So I would have 2i times 5 square root 3. And I can simplify that just a little bit more because I can actually multiply these whole numbers. I can multiply 2 times 5. They're just good old everyday numbers. 2 times 5 would be 10. I still have the I because of the original negative under the radical. I still have square root 3 and then this plus 15. Those are not like terms, so they cannot be combined together. That's your answer. That's as simple as that answer is going to get. Okay. 25, we have 2, which is a good old everyday number. So I have 2 plus square root 36. Doesn't have a negative underneath. 36, I believe, is 6 times 6. So I can simplify that to just plain 6. Minus, don't trip up on the sign. Then I have the square root of -9. So because it's negative, I know that I'm going to have an I. 9 is 3 times 3. So that gives me 3i plus, with square root of -25. Again, because of the negative, I know I'm going to have an I. And 25 is 5 times 5. So that becomes 5i. Now, this particular one will simplify a little bit further because I can take the pieces that are just good old everyday numbers, 2, 2, and 6, and I can add them together. 2 plus 6 would be 8. I can also then take the pieces that are imaginary, the ones with i's, negative 3i plus 5i, and I can combine them together. So 5 minus 3 would be positive 2i. So ultimately, when I simplify that particular expression, my final answer is going to be 8 plus 2i. Okay, so that finishes the review sheet. I realized that I didn't give you any questions where you had to do transformations, so I'll see if I can pull some of those together and post some information on that for you.